Listeners be advised. The Soliloquy podcast discuss matters related to the human experience and many that are sexual in nature. Due to this, some conversations may surround triggering topics such as sexual violence, self-harm, abuse, and much more. Please be advised, a list of crisis and psychological resources will be available in the show notes of this episode. With that said, let's get started with the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention please as we go through the following safety instructions.
In the event that there is a loss of cabin pressure, oxygen mask will drop from the overhead. Place the mask over your nose and mouth. Breathe normally as oxygen is flowing even if the mask is not inflated. Be sure to adjust your own mask before helping others.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Soliloquy podcast, where we step out and speak on sexuality. This is your favorite host, Vernon T. Scott, also known as Slaytor Jackson, and for you freaking motherfuckers out there, Sebastian Adams. On today's episode, we will be talking about having kids, giving birth, not giving birth, abortions. It is a Planned Parenthood episode, you all. So we're going to be talking about some deep things and having some deep conversations. And I am blessed to have Lori back on the line with me. How are you doing, beautiful?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Happy because you're here.
Yay. Love coming on talking to you.
I love to hear that. So, before we even get into this Planned Parenthood conversation, do you mind reminding everybody exactly what you do, who you are, what you're about? And then we could just go ahead and just start this conversation about abortion, because let's go ahead and get into that real quick. So let's go.
Absolutely. I am an expert in gender and sexuality development. I'm a public speaker, but most of all, I'm a certified professional life coach, and I'm here to help you all feel happy in your lives and fulfilled. I like to work with LGBTQ community, the non-monogamous community, and anybody that is feeling really stressed by their gender or their sexuality and would like to figure it all out with some support. So you can reach out to me for any of those things.
Please do it. And her information is going to be in the show notes, everybody. Click it, learn more about her. So, as I mentioned, we are going to be talking about, the abortion ban for one. Now, I don't know. Well, this episode will be airing in 2023, some month, more than likely March or April. So we don't really know exactly where the U.S. is going to be at that point. However, the U.S. does what the U.S. does. It's some fuck shit. It's a lot of fuckery. It is where we are. So
sigh.
It's like if we toss a coin, more than likely it's still going to be some fuckery going on. So it's evergreen content at this point. So what are your feelings as it relates to abortion, as well as this abortion ban nonsense that's going on?
Oh gosh, sad, anxious, concerned, angry. I'm having a whole lot of feelings about how the US is handling Planned Parenthood. And I'm really concerned for the trans population too, because they're not even being heard with with all their concerns and their needs. The fact that they have like stopped funding in many states or closing it down, and so many states making it now illegal to have any sort of reproductive care related to abortion, that just really it breaks my heart. Breaks my heart because not only are these people going there for their medical needs, right? Like this is a medical need, but there's a ripple effect that happens from closing down the funding and closing down the the access to Planned Parenthood. How do I put this? Take your hands off of our bodies. Just like the government just needs to back off and let people access their medical health needs. Let the doctors do their jobs. They went to medical school, they know um, how to help people,
Mhm.
and let the people make the choices that they need on their own health care.
I agree. And I hate that we're in the space today where the experts are not the trusted sources for any information.
Truly,
It's like whoever has the loudest voice, which often is a politician that doesn't even know what the fuck they're talking about, that they're just going to say something outside their ass and think that this is what it's supposed to be because it's something that I learned in what church, in my local community, within my family. This is the messaging that I've been taught all my life. Therefore, anything that's outside of that is incorrect. That's not how life works. That's not how education works. That's not even how science works. That's not how anything that's based in the reality that we all live in works. And to think that these people who spent all these years in school learning the differences within body anatomy,
mm-hmm.
how our biology works, how our genetics work, how everything that makes us work. To tell them that they don't know what the fuck they're talking about just because you have a platform and a voice to do so and pass laws is it's inhumane in a sense.
It truly
It's
is.
it's fucked up.
It truly is. There's such a stigma around this whole topic, and it makes it really difficult to have a serious conversation with anybody about it. But whenever I hear the politicians talking about from the opposite side there that are saying that people are killing babies by having abortions, whenever I hear that, I'm like, have you listened and looked at any of the science behind it or the actual statistics behind all of this? It's not the it's not just being used as some sort of preventative for having a child just for fun. Like there's just the people aren't just showing up just because they feel like it and they're having fun doing this. They're taking pleasure in doing this. It's they're they're removing they're removing possibly a rape child. They're removing possibly a broken embryo that's stuck in a fallopian tube. They're saving a life that could be at risk because of the child not developing properly. They're 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 embryos. They're cells. The majority of the time, that's what it is a pile of cells that are just being taken out. And there's a lot of emotion behind it.
Mm,
There's absolutely, no matter what, there's going to be a lot of emotion behind it, having to make this choice. And sometimes not a choice. Sometimes it's a medical health need for the life of the person who is dealing with this right now. And to have that choice, or for the doctor to make that choice, or for the patient to make that choice taken away from them by the government, that's awful.
mhm,
That's awful. So you have people then that are being forced to carry to term and possibly not making it, or then they're having this an actual child. Maybe they are having a healthy baby. And then that baby is stuck in a system because they're forced to give it up for adoption. They're stuck in a system with that's not being funded anyway.
mhm. And I severely hate that argument about, oh, if you don't want the child, just put them up for adoption, as though the adoption system is really helping out anything. Like, yes, there are some kids who've found wonderful parents because of the adoption system, but there's so many people whose lives were negatively impacted because of that. There's a huge number of sexual abuse that happens within these
Yeah.
facilities, child abuse that happens within these facilities. There's poverty that happens. There's like so much trauma that individuals who were adopted are living through because of them being in that system that is ongoing and lasting till today. So to say just put the child in a system that's going to forget about them, why would I do that? Why force that onto somebody just because I had to be forced to have a child? And even for those people who do end up wanting to keep the child and we're not ready to have a child, what kind of life are they going to be living, because now the trajectory of their life had to change because of this incident, most definitely for those people who may have been raped, who may have been assaulted as a child. Now they have
Exactly.
to care for this baby as best as that they can and try to survive. But what's the quality of life of that mother, that those parents, as well as the child, because of these circumstances that they were forced to be in?
Exactly. Exactly. And then my heart breaks for the trans community. The the trans community that's not having a voice in their reproductive care at all. The ones that have to go off of their hormone treatments because they were raped and assaulted and now they're pregnant and they can't do anything about that. And now they're dealing with their gender dysphoria while they're pregnant. That's awful.
Mm,
That's awful. And there can be a lot of complications with their reproductive system from the being in the middle of a transition, or maybe not. Maybe they didn't have any issues at all. They still should be able to say, I don't want this experience. I don't need this experience. This is not going to be good for this child, this potential child, because right now it's just a bunch of cells.
mm,
You don't even know how it's going to turn out. But you shouldn't have to be forced psychologically to go through that sort of trauma. And I really worry for them. And you know what? The Planned Parenthood isn't all about that anyway. That's one part, one facet of it. And to have these places shut down when they were also providing breast cancer screenings, men's reproductive care, medications for the community, wellness checks for the community. There's a lot of services that Planned Parenthood provides, and people are now having to leave the state to go to another state to access these services. That's awful.
hmm It's ridiculous. Another thing, they even provided sex education for anyone who's actually wanted it and needed it. Like there's even guided material that they provide to new parents if they want that. Like they help people find structure in very dysfunctional places. And to say that there's no value in that just because you believe that it's a place for just getting rid of a baby or murdering children and all this other
Oh my
misinformation that
gosh,
you
that
received. Like,
the
it,
day that I saw or on the news that ch they were taking the funding away and the law away for supporting Planned Parenthood and removing the Roe versus Wade law, right? Just saying that was not a thing that should be happening.
mhm,
When they did that, I cried. Like I was in an emergency room for my son. There was an issue going on, and I was sitting there in the wait room, and and then all of a sudden I see that on the news, and I'm like, no, no, it didn't. No, it did not just happen. I cried, and you see these signs up with the save these babies. No, all these doctors are murderers, and I'm just like, how did this country get to that? How did that happen? And so,
exactly.
yeah, the sex education is so vital for that reason, for all that misinformation that is out there, and that the people just say the most awful things and do the most awful things with from coming from a lack of education.
Mm.
And then they go and take away the one thing that can actually help people. It's so sad.
It's very. And one of the things that we discussed was how there are some laws that are drafted, and I think some, I don't know for sure if any of them have passed, but there were some that were drafted that restricts
Right.
hormone therapies. And the fact that if those were to pass, that it's not just going to impact trans people. I know that's the big boogeyman that is
Right.
being used to message the reason behind that, but hormone therapy is beneficial for people of all ages. The Holiloquy podcast focuses on the variability of sexual expression. When it comes to sexual expression, we often depend on pornography to illustrate how one must perform sexually. For those who have not learned this by now, the stuff you see in porn is not real. Pornography provides a singular perspective of sexual expression that is not often the reality we see during our own sexual encounters. The Holiloquy podcast is a conversation that takes you outside of the compressed box of what many know about sex. Some of the topics we discuss includes kinks, condom usage, status disclosure, and past sexual experiences. The Holiloquy podcast steps out on sexual norms and recognizes that the norm is not the only normal. Subscribe today and join the conversation. That is
Right.
being used to message the reason behind that, but hormone therapy is beneficial for people of all ages,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of if they're transgender or not. You
Yep.
have elderly women who may need hormone therapy in order for them to, adjust through menopause. You have
Yep.
elderly men who might need that in order to adjust with their testosterone levels.
Yep.
Like hormone therapy
It's
goes above and beyond just the trans community. Yes, they do benefit from those therapies, but so does everyone else.
where are all the science-minded people like helping the government? Like,
Exactly.
like, come on. All right, so people have thyroid issues that could affect their hormones. And as we age, our hormone levels change, and sometimes we don't take in enough vitamins to help keep us healthy, and that can affect our hormones. And I know children as well as adults that are not transgender that are receiving hormone therapy, and it helps their mental health as well as their physical health. And that's something that's not even really screened properly that really should be because it's more common than is actually realized that there's issues with hormone levels. I can't believe that this fear of I'm pretty sure it stemmed from the fear of people helping children with their transgender transitions,
Mhm.
and that's where that fear of the hormone therapy like stemmed from. I'm pretty sure that's where it stemmed from, but I could be wrong. So people are allowed to fact check me. Okay. And actually I encourage you to fact check everything from actual science sites, please, by the way. So like why are we having these issues? And it really stems from a lot of ignorance and radicalized thought.
Mm.
And we need to be more involved in our policies and in our governments so that we can see science actually show up and
That'd
where
be
it's
beautiful.
needed.
That would be a beautiful sight one of these days. Like, good God, like when I would not have thought, like even at the beginning of the pandemic, I would not have thought that we would get to a place where literally science does not matter. Like, how dare you believe in science? What? Like, what? Like, I even had to have a
Oh my
conversation with
God.
family members about virology because luckily for me, I actually had a small little access to understanding virology and immunology and whatnot. Not a lot, but it was enough to let me understand how viruses work. But even with
We
trying to
need
have
these
that
basics.
right, even having this conversation with some of my family members, it's just like, how can you believe that's true? What that sounds like a lie. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like this has been proven. It's been proven. Like even the existence of trans people. I'm like, how is it that we live in a space where we recognize that within Native communities and
Mm-hmm.
other marginalized people in this country, as well
Mm-hmm.
as on a global scale, that it was recognized that there has been multiple genders that's not
Mm-hmm.
just strictly male and female, that we have the two-spirited people, intersex individuals, all of these things. However, now we're in a space like we can recognize that, but we're also in a space where, oh no, you can only be male or female. What?
Right?
Like the logic is not there. What is going on? How is there a mental block to the fact that you recognize all this spectrum on a historical lens? However, in the context of today, you're just saying nope.
And it was like valued and uplifted in these communities, for the pre-Christian communities, the tribal communities. Like it was a valuable person that was seen in the community as somebody who could walk the path of both sides of the binary, and they were uplifted and seen as a really important person in their tribe. I actually was reading something in Hungarian folklore because I'm random like that, where you had this concept, and I'm really simplifying it, so I apologize for people who know the whole history of it. But I'm simplifying it, where if you had walked under a rainbow, you would change gender to the other side. And so, like, when they were looking at people in their community that were kind of going back and forth, because yes, there were transgender people throughout history and non-binary people throughout history. We just have the language now to explain it better. But like back in the day, long, long time ago, they had explanations that were quite beautiful about it. And this concept of going under the rainbow and transitioning on the other side as to the other gender was, I thought, was quite a beautiful way of describing it and seeing it in their community. And it is a beautiful thing to be taking away um, this concept of you have to be a certain way because of your chromosomes and your genitals, that you're stuck in this role is really, I feel against the concept of choice and freedom and the beauty of being able to accept yourself and live yourself authentically.
Mm.
So it really sucks that we are taking away the freedom of choice, in the sense of, I don't feel right in my skin. I would like to be able to feel right in my skin. I would like to have this choice to go to the doctor and be like, hey, fix me. I'm actually really needing to look this way because I'm having such a hard time being accepted in my community for how I am. And so I need to look a different way. And this body is not matching my brain.
And I love that you phrase it that way because, like, when you think about it, in like cosmetic surgery, it is perfectly fine for
Mm,
somebody to get a surgery to look the way that they feel as though that they see themselves as when it comes to
yeah.
increasing their breast size, shrinking
Thank
breast
you for bringing
size,
that up. Yes.
to let go of some of the extra fat on their body, to increase the fat on their bodies, to increase their lip size, and all this. However, when it comes to a person that's like, you know what, the gender that is being portrayed or the persona that is being portrayed is not matching to how I feel on the inside, now we have a problem.
Oh my God, yes. Thank you. People can go to the beauty parlor and change the color of their hair. People can go into an elective surgery center and go ahead and get their lips pluffed up. But heaven forbid somebody go and be like, well, I would like to flatten my chest and I would like to alter my genitals so that it matches how I want people to see me in the world. How awful is it that they can't do that? And you know what? I wish I remembered where I saw this number so I can verify it. But so I also again encourage people to double check my stats. But I do know that there is a lot smaller number of people that regret having any kind of surgery
Hmm.
done for changing their gender than there are for people who regret having their breast implants and their butt implants done to help the way they look.
Hmm.
The number of people that actually regret these surgeries, and it's not really even because they wanted to be transgender, but because the surgery didn't go the way they hoped it would. So the concept of, well, they don't, we might regret it if we have it done. That's actually false facts. That's not the truth.
Hmm.
The people that are transgender to the point where they are having body dysphoria and would like to change their bodies is actually needed for their mental health, and they will be okay when they're done having the surgery.
Exactly. The amount of time and therapy that a transgender individual has to go through just for them to get to the point where they can participate in surgery, they know.
Oh,
They
definitely.
know it's not going to be a regret.
Definitely.
That's a conversation that's not often had, and this is this is going completely off script, but I feel like it is a needed conversation. Is it's about the co-optation of a narrative, and I see it so often used with. To be frank, Republican politicians about genital mutilation. And
Mm,
the co-opted narrative is that that narrative is based within women who've had to be forced into female genitalia um, circumcision. And it was never anything to deal with circumcision for males or
hmm
anything of that nature. However, we use, in terms of the politicians, use that to have a blanket discuss in terms of, oh, this person who's transgender is mutilating their body, this, that, and the third. That's never been the case.
Mm-mm.
These that argument does not even fit transgender people at all. It is a cultural practice, mostly seen in some
Yeah.
African countries, that you have multiple Black women, African women,
Yes.
advocating for that, especially in their new countries, like in the UK and whatnot, of the trauma that they've experienced. And here we are in the US trying to use that to go against those who are transgender. And we don't even have the conversation about choice when it comes to circumcision of young boys.
hmm And you can't compare these two different, you can't compare. It's completely different purposes and reasons behind it. The why and the science behind these different things, and then on top of it, the way it happens and the way they go through it and what they're looking for out of it, it's completely different. You're right. And it's not talked about enough, taking these other cultures and purposes and traumas that were happening and applying it to the to a different underrepresented group's trauma. You can't compare these different things. You really can't. The transgender population having these surgeries, it's fixing their genitals.
Mm,
It's fixing their genitals to match their brain. And there is a very real biology and very real genetics that have been studied to show that their brain and the way it's functioning and the way that their body was developing in the womb does have this actual mishap that's happening in their lived experience, where they really are within in their core, in their chromosomes, and their at in their DNA, if you will, they really are having this completely different lived experience than what their body is showing on the
mm,
outside. But that also, um, the laws that affect that, the hormone therapy and the states that are trying to prevent the pausing of puberty for the what's it called? The preteen kids and the teenage kids, pausing puberty so that they can have that chance to experience their body looking at a different gender for a while before they decide if they're going to go fully with the transition or not. Stopping that also affects intersex
mm,
people, that like not having that option for them to be able to say, I was assigned the wrong gender at birth. I'm intersex. My body's developing differently than they thought it was going to, or I don't like what they chose for me because I don't feel that particular way. Or just just not having that choice when they were born at all for how they want their body to look and having things happen that were against their will. Like all of this all kind of interrelates, and it really is needed to be left in the hands of the patient
mhm.
and the doctor and their expertises, out of the hands of the government.
Agreed. And I'm glad that you brought up intersex people because there was an article I was reading. I forget, was it? I don't think it was Psychology Today, but there was this article that was pretty much tracking the arguments of some of the politicians in terms of the regret of having some kind of transition to anything like that. And it singled out a specific case where there was this young girl. who identified as a boy throughout most of I had to say girl then because he identifies as a he. So most of his life, and he was actually intersex at birth, and his parents made the decision to raise him as a girl, as well as perform um surgery on him as a child so that they could raise him as a girl. And because of that, um, he regretted the fact that his parents made that decision for him. And that became the talking point against individuals who are transitioning. And it's not necessarily that he was actually regretting that. He just didn't like what his parents did.
Yeah,
And he wanted to have known that and had that choice there. So it's like it's a false equivalence whenever they
it
do
is. You're
make that
right.
argument, because that is a specific case, and those individuals who are within that, they're not necessarily transgender, but they're intersex people, and that choice truly was taken away from them because we have a society that says that you can only be assigned male or female at birth, and we base it off your genitalia. And if that genitalia is not matching, we need to fix that.
It's awful. It's an awful practice.
Very.
It's an awful practice, and I really hope that it will change soon. I really do. And I do know that they have started to change a bit how they handle intersex children in some areas, but not all.
Mm,
So I'm hoping that what we've learned now from interviewing intersex individuals and from psychologists now, doing more studies on everything related to gender, I'm really hoping that those practices change, that the doctors will advise the scared parents that think that there's something bad's going to happen to their children with their peers as they're growing up. And I really hope that they leave it be. Just leave it be until the child is old enough to make decisions on how they want their body to look, if they want anything to change or not, and maybe just accept that that's how their body will look
agree.
and that
Agree.
that's beautiful too.
I definitely agree with you 100%. Another thing that we were discussing in our intake meeting was related to the work that you do, and supporting a child who is questioning their gender. How exactly do you approach that with children, and what kind of conversations do you have to have with their parents? What does that guidance look like for any parent who might have a child out there that's questioning their gender? What kind of advice you may have for them? And another thing that I do want to connect with this is the suicide rates for youth that are who identify as some aspect of the LGBTQ plus community.
Okay. Well, I'll start first with an intake that allows me to do some survey and take some data. So I'll do some assessments that are based on what they feel their life is like right now, where there's some strengths, where there's weaknesses across the board that can go from how they're relating to their peers, how they're relating to their body image, how they're relating to their family, their school environments, what else do I have on that list? I have things that are related to self-care and self-love and spirituality. When I say spirituality, it's that awe, that sense of awe and wonder, not necessarily religion, just that sense of your existential experience in the world. Because there is some studies that have gone into having some sense of yourself in relation to the world and awe and wonder, and that is related to happiness. So I'm looking for their sense of happiness and their strengths
Mm,
and their sense of unhappiness and where they feel that they're feeling disorganized and not happy in general, so that I can look at the whole picture. And I ask the parents what their experiences are, what they're seeing, where their worries are, where they feel things are going well, and what they have collected data on in general. So at this point, when they're coming to me, a lot of it has sort of been bubbling for a while and simmering in the pot, right? So the child most likely has a history of some kind of not quite fitting in or doing things, walking to the beat of their own drum, and the parents being kind of confused. It's not like lining up the way that they thought it was going to when they had the kid. Or there's like this big, all of a sudden, this big upheaval of sorts. So you might see like the kid is really depressed at school and feeling sad and lonely and not connecting to their peers or being felt like an outcast in some way. They're fighting about their wardrobe, they're fighting about the decorations in their room. You might see the kid arguing with the teacher about their name or their pronouns if they've already been thinking about it for a while. You might even find Google searches on how do I turn into
Mm,
a boy or a girl or what is what am I? And you might find these like very to you as the parent very strange. You don't normally think your child's going to be searching for how do I turn into a boy. So it might seem very different. And you might raise some red flags in your head, like something's going on with my kid. I don't get it. And so they'll come to me and they'll start talking to me about it. And when I do these surveys, I sit down with the kid and separately from the parents as well, and I talk to them about how this is a safe environment to explore yourself, to explore what's going on in your head and why you're feeling this way, and what you want to feel like, and what do you dream about, what do you hope for yourself, and what do you want to work on with your time with me. My goal is usually to start with anything related to self-esteem and peers and wherever their strengths lie. Because once we uplift and feel more confidence, then the other stuff starts to like spiral in a good way. It starts to kind of click and fall into line. So I'm going to look for any way, shape, or form that I can make the child feel confidence in themselves and feel good about themselves, but I'll also be educating. So that a lot of times we have kids that have gone through school and they don't know anything about gender diversity and gender fluidity or anything related to sexual orientation. And so sometimes it can conflate. They think that their gender is different, but really their sexuality is different. Or it's not the same thing, or the parents think that there's something going on, the child must be gay, but really their gender is changing in their heads. Like they want to be different than what they are being shown on the outside. So there's some education that's happening too between the two. And interventions for life coaching can look a lot like a holistic practice and a lot like therapy, even though it's not therapy. So I'm doing what I call positive psychology interventions. Positive psychology is a science of happiness. So I'm looking at what makes people happy and what motivates them to move in that direction. And I'm using inquiry and talking with the child or the adults and figuring out some common threads in what they're discussing and asking questions that will help them look inside themselves more and be more insightful so that they can come to their own realization that they have these strengths, that they already kind of know what their interests are and what they want within themselves, or they know what direction they want to move in to learn more about. They just need to have some guidance or find some motivation to move in those directions. They need to get past some kind of a block that's happening. Usually with kids that are transgender, that block relates to their peers and their parents. So when we're working on our self-esteem and we're working on like our confidence, we're not so worried now about our peers rejecting us. And we're not, and when we're working together with the parent and having every now and then a session as a group and having communication between the two, usually it's a fear that the parent is having that we need to get past, the fear that their child is going to self-harm or their child is going to be outcasted or their child's going to have all these big struggles and they're not communicating between each other. So we'll work on that a bit. And between all of this, over usually it's about like 6 months that we work together. Throughout that time, we're moving now in the direction of finding things that feel right, feeling confident, finding peers that fit us better, finding ways to hold boundaries with people that are hurting us, and finding our advocates in our school that can help us with the bullies and the peer issues and the teacher issues. Sometimes I'll consult if the school doesn't have really good guidance departments that understands these things or policies in place for transgender children, I'll advocate as well in the school to make sure that that's there for them, that they're following the laws properly. For New Jersey, we're talking about, by the way, if I'm doing virtual work, I could still help and consult virtually outside of the state with what would work best for the child, but they would have to just figure out if it's the right laws that can work together with that. So over that time period, we wind up exploring and finding clothing that fits right, finding activities that feel right, finding where our strengths are so that we can advocate for ourselves better and know what we need and communicate it better. And then finding our community. You just need one person that is an ally to make a difference in the suicide rate. And you had asked about the suicide rate. It's very high for transgender children, unfortunately. And I advocate for the Trevor Hotline whenever I bring that up for children. Trevor Hotline is amazing. They have an amazing training program for the crisis counselors. So while I will absolutely help as a life coach, if you're in like a crisis moment and I'm not available, or you're looking for somebody just for the moment to talk to, Trevor Hotline is outstanding. And they have a lot of things on their website for to help you find within your state's resources. But you just need one person. That could be a faculty member. That could be me. That could be that could be a peer. That could be a sibling. That could be a parent. You need one person that is validating their feelings and holding space for them and giving them the best human experience they can to say, you are loved, you are okay, people will accept you. You just need some confidence in yourself and some self-compassion.
Yes.
So, yeah, just one person.
Just
One.
one person, and that's partly the reason why I do have that affirmation at the end of
Oh,
my
I would love listening to that affirmation that you say at the end there. So, oh my gosh, it makes me so happy. It's true.
because like when I first started the podcast, I didn't have it there, but I at least let people know, hey, love you all, see you next episode or something like that, or end the show some
Yeah.
way. But I when I was younger, I was a lot more of the affirmations kind of person, and it took a former classmate to spark that in me once more. And ever since then, I decided, let me make sure I have that message for some people, because you never know how somebody is feeling on the other side of whatever you're streaming from. You might be that person who keeps somebody off of that ledge just another day.
Yeah.
And just having someone just to remind you that you are beautiful. Fuck what everybody else says. You are still beautiful. And if nobody else
Oh
loves
yeah.
you, at least know that Vernon loves you. Lori loves you. Somebody who's
Yes.
never met you has love for you. It doesn't have to be the immediate people that you're surrounding yourself around, or even your family, but some stranger somewhere has love for you and you meant something to them. Live for them and live for yourself. First off, live for yourself first.
Yes.
And I say that because many people, when they do live for other people, and they're the focal point of why they're here every single day, if there's ever a point when that person is no longer there or they fail you, you go into a deep bout of depression of, who am I without that person's love? But when you have your own love and
Hmm.
you fill yourself with the love that you need because you're living for yourself, regardless of who does not like you, who it is who does not love you, you will still know that I love myself, and that's all that matters.
That is a hugely important piece of advice right there is that self-compassion for yourself, that things are going to be hard at times. We might lose some people that we really cared about in our life. We might have some failures in our life. We might not have the things that go the way we hope they go, but we will get through these hard times. They do come to an end, they do pass. And you are strong enough and brave enough and beautiful enough to make it through. So that self-compassion helps get through the hard times, and then that love for yourself pushes you through all the way. I love myself enough to accept that this is hard right now and I'll take care of myself.
Mm.
Love myself enough to give myself a break when things didn't go the way I hoped they would.
See, I love that you said that I love myself to accept that things are not going the way I wanted because there, that concept of toxic positivity, whenever
Mm,
you ignore and don't acknowledge the negative things that are around you, will make you a lot more depressed than just
yes.
accepting and acknowledging that at this point, right now, I'm not my best. And that is okay. But you can always find a way to get to the other side of that darkness. If it might take some work, it might take some tears, but there is a possibility for you to go get past that. If you need the help, get the help. Like there's a way.
I can't tell you enough how much I hate toxic positivity.
Oh,
Stop telling me everything's okay. It's not.
it's not
It's
okay.
not. Stop gaslighting me.
You're right. Like, find friends who will tell you the truth because, look, you need it. If things are not right, it's okay to tell your friends, okay, look, we need to take a step back and reevaluate some things because what you just said sounds like you're going through some trauma right now. How can I help you?
Yeah, simple as that.
Exactly. Well, I will say this is a good place to just put a pin on that episode and switch into some fun stuff about Never Have I Ever. Are you ready?
Sure.
So, I'm going to mix it up for you today. I'm going to do a never have I ever, a would you rather, as well as a sex question. You ready?
Oh, okay. Throwing it at me.
Yes. So, never have I ever licked chocolate syrup or whipped cream off of someone.
Totally have. So tasty, so fun, so hot.
Yes, I've done that before. I still refuse to do chocolate syrup because it's way too sticky, but I will fucking do some whipped cream. Whipped
Chocolate syrup is so sticky, but so yummy, and you're hot and sweaty and sticky anyway. So why not? I don't. Oh no, that might be fun anyway. I was gonna say I liked it warmed up more than when it came straight out of the fridge,
cream.
but ice is a lot of fun too. So
Yes. Yes
there's
to
that.
ice. So some chocolate syrup, some ice.
Mm.
You might as well throw some ice cream in this motherfucker. We having a Sunday today, y'all. We're having a fucking Sunday.
Hell yeah!
If we're going to be sticky as hell, we might as well have a Sunday.
Might as well make it a full Sunday. Give me that cherry while I pop that cherry.
Oh, yes. Episode title right there. Love that. So, would you rather have a partner who can never lie, even if the truth is painful to hear, or be with
Hmm.
the partner who always says what you want to hear, even if it's not true?
Oh, and hell no. Give me that truth bomb.
Hey, man.
Ah, fuck. I'm done playing games. Just lay it at me.
For real, just I don't have the time for you to sugarcoat anything. What's going on? That's going into that toxic positivity mess. I cannot.
Exactly.
No, nope. Do not tell me stuff that I just want to hear. Sometimes it's great if you know I look a hot ass mess and you know I'm going through some things. Just like, you know what? You've had better days, but you look cute.
Yeah, you still have the truth in there. You
Exactly.
could be nice about it.
Exactly. But don't just be like, oh, you look so gorgeous. Yes, Vernon. I love this ensemble that you got on. Bitch, I am wearing my bum a bum outfits. There's holes all through the shit. There's crusty dirt on the bottom of the cuff of these pants. And I look fucking cute. How
Your standards are too low then.
exactly. You don't love me as a friend. Oh God. All righty. Here is the sex question.
Okay.
Have you ever sent or received naughty sex, and what did they say?
Like virtually texting or like on the
Mhm.
phone or like any of the above?
Ooh, any of the above.
All of the above then.
I have to. Whenever you do sex somebody, is it steamy or is it just like Do you are you the tease kind of sex person, or are you more of the I'm going to get raunchy with you? I want you to be masturbating off of the messages that I'm sending
Both.
you. Ooh.
It's fun to have the variety, I feel, and I think that's great advice for everybody is just that what makes sex um with long term with somebody. So if you're going to be with one partner for a long time, what keeps it going is that fun and excitement of something new and that new and novel thing. So that new novel thing doesn't have to be like we're getting new toys today. It could be something as simple as I'm talking to you a little differently. I'm bringing you to a new place. I'm trying something that out of our normal routine. I'm not putting it on my calendar for Saturday night every week. I'm going to try it Monday afternoon now. Or while you're at work, I'm going to send you a quick little text as like a little hint of a flirt of some way. But for me, yeah, when when I'm with partners that are not around, I'm having a lot of fun in any way that I can. So yeah, we're absolutely sexting. We're absolutely sending something naughty to each other, and that could be a full blown out, long night of fun going back and forth on the phone, texting, video camera, it doesn't matter, but there are so many ways that you can show and express your erotic side. It's it if you're not feeling comfortable with it in one way, communicate that
Mhm.
and then talk to each other about what's something that you would desire to try that you haven't tried yet. What's something new and novel that we can do that makes our date night more fun?
By any chance, have you ever? This is something I actually kind of want to do one day, in the future when I am in like an actual committed relationship. But have you ever sexted your partner while in the same room?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I feel like that would be so much fun. It's like
Oh,
you're
it
here,
is. Because then
like,
you're looking at each other like, did you really just send that to me? Oh my God. And then I'm having a lady boner and she's got a lady boner and we're having a good old time. No one else knows and we're like looking at each other.
it's like I feel
Yeah.
that's like whenever you're at like a party or something or outing with your best friend and you're both communicating with each other and you're just looking up to make sure that they got that text message. You're just like, bitch,
I know what's
answer
going on.
this, girl. But
Oh
that's just
yeah, that's part of that keeping it exciting.
hmm
Things are going to get stale. You're going to go through periods of time when life just gets too busy and you're going through the emotions and the mundane. One way that you can keep your relationship really happy and keep it really going is to find that flirtiness that you had when you first got together, that new relationship energy, that excitement of the, ooh, I just got a text.
Ooh.
Ooh, there's a little nip there. Loving that little nip.
Yes. Like like even like right now with me talking to someone, I don't know how this is going to go, but my main thing is I keep telling him stop saying stuff to make me smile, and he just keeps doing it. I'm just like fuck you. So I'm going, and it's a tit for tat thing
That's
because
so cute.
I tell him, do not do that because I'm not trying to be giddy giddy right now, and still sends it. And I'm just like, okay, since you're going to be on that energy, I'm going to return this energy because you're playing these games. So I will play these games with you. And it's fun. It's fun. It's like a good way to
Yes.
enjoy, even if we're not in like the same city because we're not, it's still fun and enjoyable. It's playful,
Yeah.
and that's the thing that is beneficial to a lot of relationships is just finding ways to play outside of sex, because sex is a way to play with your partner, but you
Hmm.
can play in different ways. Video game together, sext each other, make each other smile, doing the most random things, sending each
Eating
other.
ice cream off their backside.
Exactly.
Anything.
Exactly. Anything. There's so many things you can do to play with your partner. Just broaden your
Um,
horizons.
yeah, just try it. You have this fantasy of something and you're probably nervous to talk to your partner about it, because I'm assuming then that it's something that you've held in, you're afraid of rejection, and that's common.
Mm,
That's normal. It's okay to feel nervous about it. But you also should at that point, when you're trying to experiment with something new, know your partner well enough to know how to bring it up in a safe way,
mm,
where you're letting them know that you're nervous about this, but you're curious what they're going to say. You hope that they will be honest with you in a gentle way, and ask them also what they're interested in, and be able to go back and forth with each other like, you know, okay, I'm not sure I feel comfortable with this in this way, but maybe we can adjust something in here and try it in a different way. Or what's another way we can get that same feeling where I'm more comfortable and have
mm.
that conversation. And that's a beautiful way to grow your relationship. If you could feel safe enough to talk about the hot chocolate on the nipple, then you should be able to talk about the other hard thing that's going on in your life when you're really hurting and you're afraid to talk about your jealousy, or you're afraid to talk about your bad day that you had, or that you want to switch jobs and you don't know what you'll do for money when you switch jobs because of unpaid time. Those hard relationship things, you'll be able to use those same strategies then when those come along for safe communication.
Mm.
Deep, deep stuff.
Real deep stuff. Whew, Lordy. Well, Lord, you left
How
us.
I went from hot chocolate and ice cream sundaes on naked bodies to you got this in your hard communication times. I don't know how I did that, but I did, and I did it all for you all out there.
Yes, that's called a pro, y'all. That's a pro life coach for you. Take you all around the map, but the right destination. Hallelujah. So, Lori, do you have, other than that word that you just provided to us and that we need to like absorb and sit in for a moment, do you have any other last words that you would like to share with the audience?
Continue with your self-compassion, your self-love. Have that wonderful, loving time by yourself where you figure out the things that make you happy so you can share it with your partners. And reach out to let me know if anything touched you in this episode, because I love to hear from people. So you go to www.includelgbtq.com and you look me up on all the socials and all the places and send me a message. And if you feel like something struck you and you want to talk about it more, I'll talk about it with you. And if you want to experience what life coaching is like, I always give a free session first so we can see if it's right for you. And if it's not, I'll point you in the direction that can help you. So there's nothing to lose there, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Utilize your resources, people. Well, on that note, thank you all. Well, first off, thank you, Lori, for being on the podcast.
My pleasure. It's always a fun time with you, Vernon.
I agree. I agree. I still need to make this trip to New Jersey. I'm
Please
slacking.
do. Please do. We'd be besties.
Yes. For the listeners out there, thank you all so much for listening to the Holy Loki podcast, where we step out and speak on sexuality. Just in case no one else told you this today, you are beautiful, you are worthy of happiness and joy, you are enough and then some. You may not live up to the expectations of others, but that is okay. You are only required to walk in your own shoes. May each day you live lead you towards abundance. With that said, love you all and see you next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Holiloquy Podcast, where we step out and speak on sexuality. You can subscribe to the podcast through your favorite podcasting app and find us on the web at www.holiloquy.com. That's www.heauxliloquy.com. Share the podcast with your friends and join the conversation.